Hare Krishna. Welcome to this episode of Bhagavad Gita. Today we will study chapter 6 verse 2. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Visakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So welcome to this episode of Bhagavad Gita. Today we'll be studying chapter 6, text 2. Yoga equals sannyasa. Yoga is the same as sannyasa. So let's go to the verse. So let's chant word by word from here, and then after that line by line. Please repeat after me. Yam sannyasam iti prahuh Yogam tam vidhi pandava na hi asanyasta sankalpah yogi bhavati kaschana. Line by line. Yam sannyasam iti prahur Yogam tam vidhi pandava nahya sanyasta sankalpo yogi bhavati kaschana. Yam sannyasam iti prahur Yogam tam vidhi pandava nahya sanyasta sankalpo Yogi bhavati kaschana. Yam, what? Sannyasam, renunciation. Iti, thus. Prahu, they say. Yogam, linking with the Supreme. Tam, that. Vidhi, you must know. Pandava, O son of Pandu. Na, never. He, certainly. Asanyasta, without giving up. Sankalpaha, desire for self-satisfaction. Yogi, a mystic transcendentalist. Bhavati, becomes. Kaschana, anyone. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: what is called renunciation you should know to be the same as yoga, or linking oneself with the Supreme, O son of Pandu, for one can never become a yogi unless he renounces the desire for sense gratification. Just hold on for a second. So renunciation and yoga is the same, Krishna is saying. So let's read the purport and then we will continue to explain. Purport: real sannyasa yoga or bhakti means that one should know his constitutional position as the living entity and act accordingly. The living entity has no separate independent identity. He is the marginal energy of the Supreme. When he is entrapped by material energy, he is conditioned, and when he is Krishna conscious or aware of the spiritual energy, then he is in his real and natural state of life. Therefore, when one is in complete knowledge, one ceases all material sense gratification or renounces all kinds of sense gratificatory activities. This is practiced by the yogis who restrain the senses from material attachment. But a person in Krishna consciousness has no opportunity to engage his senses in anything which is not for the purpose of Krishna. Therefore, a Krishna conscious person is simultaneously a sannyasi and a yogi. The purpose of knowledge and of restraining the senses, as prescribed in the jnana and yoga processes, is automatically served in Krishna consciousness. If one is unable to give up the activities of his selfish nature, then jnana and yoga are of no avail. The real aim is for a living entity to give up all selfish satisfaction and to be prepared to satisfy the Supreme. A Krishna conscious person has no desire for any kind of self enjoyment. He is always engaged for the enjoyment of the Supreme. One who has no information of the Supreme must therefore be engaged in self satisfaction, because no one can stand on the platform of inactivity. All purposes are perfectly served by the practice of Krishna consciousness. So, one thing is for sure, we cannot stop activity. We have to always act. That is a given. Now, either we act in knowledge or we act in ignorance. So, we either in ignorance or in knowledge, we are always acting, because that is the nature of the soul, to be active. The difference between a living body and a dead body is that the living body is active, the dead body is not active. And the reason is that the soul is there. Otherwise, there is no difference between a living body and a dead body actually. If you see the body alone, there is no difference. Nothing changes. But the thing that makes a living body is actually a body. Either dead or living, it's actually a body. And actually by nature it's always dead. Even now, this body is dead. It's like this dress is not alive. But wherever I go, this dress also goes with me. It moves with me. But just because it moves, it is not to be considered to be alive. Right? So similarly, just because this body moves, it is not that it is alive. The thing that is making it move is the soul, and the soul is alive. Soul is always alive, and the body is always dead. When the soul sits in the body appears animated. Just like we are the person and the car is an object. The car is always dead. It is never alive. And the driver, we are always alive. But when we sit in the car also appears animated, as if alive. So that's the difference between a living body and a dead body. But great scientists and doctors and philosophers, they themselves don't know these facts. Although they see the body, the so-called living and dead body, they don't know these things. So this is the basics of spiritual knowledge. Now, we think we are the body, and in that way when we act, that is called action in ignorance. And in such ignorant activities, we get attached to things that are not worthy of attachment. We should be attached. By nature we are attached because we are dependent. Attachment comes because of dependency. If we are completely independent of anything and everything, then we don't need to be attached to anything. But because we are dependent, we have to be attached to that which we are dependent upon. Now, you may say, then why are parents attached to the children? They are not dependent on the children. They are, because although the child is dependent on the parents for his maintenance, the parents depend on the child for their satisfaction. They get a lot of pleasure from the child, and they get, because it's their child. So their happiness is dependent upon the child. If the child cannot, if he is sick, then the parents also are worried. If the child is happy, the parents are also happy. So their happiness depends upon the happiness of the child. So there is always attachment, there is always some dependency. One can be perfectly renounced only if one is completely independent. But how can we be independent in the first place? Because we are not Swarat, we are not the Lord. Our maintenance, everything, our happiness, everything, we need to be dependent on something or someone. That's why people get into a relationship as well. Because alone, it's not complete. But that's why they want to make it complete with a relationship, whether it's friendly relation or master and servant or conjugal relation. Either way, one always looks for satisfaction, and for that satisfaction, because he cannot get it alone by himself, he depends on someone, and that's why attachment happens. So in order to maintain such attachment, we need to work. For example, family life is the impetus for economic development. A famous economist, he also said that. So he said family and life is the basis of economic development. Why? Because when there is attachment of family life, then to maintain such attachment, one has to work. Even Bhagavatam also says that. Srimad Bhagavatam 5.5.8. पुंसस्त्रिया मिथुनी भावमेतं तयोर्मिथो हृदय ग्रंथिमाहो अतो गृहक्षेत्रसुताप्तवित्तैर् janasya moho yamaham mameti. The attraction between male and female is the basic principle of material existence. On the basis of this misconception, this is first of all a misconception, which ties together, this is called ignorance. Ignorance means to not have the right concept of life, misconcept of life, misconception of life. So that is ignorance. So on the basis of this misconception, which ties together the hearts of the male and female, one becomes attracted to his body, home, property, children, relatives, and wealth. In this way, one increases life's illusions and thinks in terms of I and mine. See, wealth, to maintain the wife, the body, the home, property, children, and relatives, one needs wealth. And to get that wealth, one has to work. So economic development happens. There is rotation of money. There is movement of money because of this. So it all starts with this attraction between male and female. So for the attachment, to maintain the attachment, we have to work. In this way, when we work in ignorance, then we get implicated in so many sinful actions. Of course, one can also conduct family life in knowledge. That is also possible. What is that knowledge? We have to know from Krishna. What is that? Krishna consciousness, that we are actually eternally parts and parcel of Krishna. So the family members are not actually my family members. They are Krishna's family members. And in that way we are all related. Not only our family, everybody is related in that way, through Krishna. So action in knowledge and action in ignorance. Now, what is sannyasa? Sannyasa means to give up the activities of ignorance for the purpose of acquiring knowledge of the reality, the supreme, Sat. Sat Nyasa. That means one who gives up. Nyasa means to give up. One who gives up everything for the purpose of Sat, the eternal truth. That is absolute truth. That is Krishna. So sannyasa means one who gives up all other activities for the purpose of serving the Supreme. So when the giving up of activities in ignorance is called sannyasa. And yoga means to connect back with Krishna, to connect back with God. Now we are in a state of viyoga, disconnected with God. Honestly, we cannot be disconnected because we are always maintained by the Lord in every aspect of our life. Even though we have completely forgotten Him, He never forgot us even for a moment. And He has always been providing for us as well. So in actuality, there is no disconnection with God. But in our consciousness, we have completely forgotten Him. What is that? Sarvasya chaham hridisannivishto matta smritir jnanam apohanam cha. Because we wanted to forget Him, Krishna made the arrangement for us to forget Him. So we have forgotten Him, not only for one, but for trillions and trillions of lifetimes. So now to connect back with him is yoga. That's why, although sannyasa means to give up and yoga means to get attached, how can they be same? They sound contradictory, right? Yoga means to become attached. Sannyasa means to become detached. How can yoga and sannyasa be same? How can attachment be equal to detachment? That is why here it is said, Yam sannyasam iti prahur yogam tam vidhi pandava. What is called renunciation you should know to be the same as yoga. So it is a seemingly contradictory statement. But if we understand the real purpose of this, sannyasa and yoga, there is absolutely no contradiction in that. So, sannyasa means to give up ignorant activities. Yoga means to take up to take up actions in knowledge. So, they are actually both meaning the same thing. How can one give up ignorance without knowledge? Right? How can one come out of darkness without light? So, it is like saying, come out of the darkness, come to the light. Asatoma sadgamaya, tamasoma jyotirgamaya, mrityorma amritam gamaya, om shanti shanti shanti. So this is the Vedic mantra. So tamasoma jyotirgamaya, come out of the darkness, come to the light. It both means the same thing. Both mean the same thing, because how can you come out of the darkness without light? And how can you come to the light and be still in darkness? You can't be. So that's why sannyasa and yoga is said to be the same. Then it is said, Nahya sannyasta sankalpo yogi bhavati kaschana. So, asanyasta sankalpo. Asanyasta sankalpa means without giving up the desire for self-satisfaction, it is impossible to become a yogi. One cannot be in darkness and light at the same time. Similarly, one cannot be in the pursuit of sense gratification and in the pursuit of devotional service at the same time. That's why, as it is said in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text 44, भोगैश्वर्य प्रसक्तानां तयापहृत चेतसां व्यवसायात्मिका बुद्धि समाधौ न विधीयते. In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. So if we are overly attached to the material opulence, then our attachment for Krishna wanes. We cannot be determined enough. And if one becomes actually attached to Krishna, then attachment for the material life wanes by nature. So, this is also said by Kunti Devi, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 8, verse 26. जन्मैश्वर्य श्रुत श्रीभिर एधमान मदः पुमान् नैवार्हत्यभिधातुं वै त्वामकिंचन गोचरम्. My Lord, your Lordship can easily be approached but only by those who are materially exhausted. One who is on the path of material progress, trying to improve himself with respectable parentage, great opulence, high education and bodily beauty, cannot approach you with sincere feeling. Now, what is the meaning of materially exhausted? Now, we may think a poor man is materially exhausted, he has nothing. No, he is not materially exhausted. Akinchana means he who has no material desires. A poor man, although has nothing with him, he has many desires that he wants to fulfill still. And that's why he, endeavors in this material world. And we have examples from the Mahabharata. The Pandavas, although surrounded by opulence, unmatched opulence, they were called Akinchana. Yudhishthir Maharaj, Arjuna, Bhima, they were Akinchana. They had no material desire. Their only desire is to satisfy Krishna. Kunti Devi also, who is saying this verse, she is a queen, but she is saying that let my attraction only be to you. Tvai me ananya vishaya Matir Madhupate Sakrit Ratim Udvahata Dadha Gange Vaugham Udanvati. So Kunti Devi is saying that let my attraction to you just flow like the Ganga to the ocean continuously. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.8.41, 42. O Lord of Madhu, as the Ganges forever flows to the sea without hindrance, let my attraction be constantly drawn unto you without being diverted to anyone else. So, and she's also saying this in the previous verse 1.8.41. Is this one? Yeah. अथ विश्वेश विश्वात्मन विश्वमूर्ते स्वकेषु मे स्नेहपाशम इमं छिंदी दृढ़ं पांडुषु वृष्णिषु. O Lord of the universe, soul of the universe, O personality of the form of the universe, please therefore sever my tie of affection for my kinsmen, the Pandavas and the Vrishnis. She's asking, cut off my affection for this material body and its relatives. This kinsman is nothing but bodily relations. So cut off. Sneha pasham imam chindi. Cut off. And let me just be focused on you. So, in other words, if we are attached to material relatives and friends, we can't be attached to Krishna. That's why she is saying, cut off my affection so that I can always think of you, like the Ganga flowing towards the ocean continuously. Because if there are material attractions and attachments, it is always going to distract all the time, and our continuous focus on the Lord will be hampered with this material attachment. And therefore, we have this verse also in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela 5.224. स्मेरां भङ्गीत्रयपरिचितां साचिविस्तीर्णदृष्टिं वंशीन्यस्ताधरकिशलयाम् उज्ज्वलां चन्द्रकेण गोविन्दाख्यां हरितनुमितः केशितीर्थोपकण्ठे मा प्रेक्षिष्ठास्तव यदि सखे बन्धुसङ्गे स्थिरङ्गः. My dear friend, if you are indeed attached to your worldly friends, do not look at the smiling face of Lord Govinda as he stands on the bank of the Yamuna at Keshi Ghat. Why? Because once you look at him, your attachment to worldly friends will completely vanish. So if you are indeed attached to your worldly friends, then don't look at Krishna. Because either you can be in darkness or in light. Once you come to the light of Krishna, the darkness of material relations will be completely eradicated. Casting sidelong glances, he places his flute to his lips, which seem like newly blossomed twigs. His transcendental body, bending in three places, appears very bright in the moonlight. So, he is very attractive with all these features. So, he is far too attractive than our attachment to our relations. So, you will forget them. So, beware. Beware of Krishna. So, in other words, it's actually a reverse psychology. It's saying, beware. It's saying you will lose all attraction for material attachments, and Krishna consciousness. In fact, it is encouraging us to go to Krishna and leave aside all our attachment for our relations. Now, you may say, "Oh, that is very irresponsible. What if we have elderly parents or family to take care of? How can you just go away like that?" To understand detachment as irresponsibility is stupidity. So we're not saying that one has to immediately run away from the house. No, it's not possible for many people to do that. And when one is attached, one is not advised to do that also. In fact, even when one of the Grihastha Brahmanas, he came to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and said, "No, I want to leave everything and take sannyas and be with you and preach Krishna consciousness." Not preach, practice with you. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, No, you stay at home. And then you preach Krishna consciousness to whomever you see. Yare dekha tare kaha Krishna upadesh. So he said, you become guru like that. You preach to everybody of Krishna consciousness. So, especially in this Kali Yuga, not everybody almost no one can renounce everything and become, fully dedicated. There can be some, but there is no necessity. So if one wants to be in family life, then one can be there. And detachment means we have to understand that even within the family life, we have to understand that this is not my family. They are all Krishna's parts and parcels. These family members of, so-called family members of mine, they are not my family. They are part of Krishna's family. So let me engage them in Krishna's service. Or if sometimes that is not possible, cannot engage them in Krishna's service, at least give them prasadam or something like that, and then myself, I must follow the principles of Krishna consciousness. So in our understanding, we have to understand that detachment must happen, and as a matter of duty, we have to continue providing not only material necessities but also somehow or other inducing them to Krishna consciousness. That should be done. So that is real detachment. To just run away from family, for a higher cause, that is possible, that is very much authorized, but not many can do that. So for the general mass of people, it is advised that instead of showing artificial renunciation for the family, show real renunciation by making them devotees and understanding that they are Krishna's servants. Of course, one can hide behind this and say that, oh, I am Prabhu, I am only seeing them as Krishna's servants, I will remain here only. So, that means he hasn't understood. So, it will be seen in the behavior of such a person how much attached or detached he is with his family. One example, one incident happened in Gaudiya Math. I have told this a few times, that Prabhupada's god brother, one of the disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, so he was made a guru after the departure of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, not under the authority of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, but his disciples, Sridhar Maharaj, and so they made two persons guru. So one was, I think, brahmachari or sannyasi, the other was a grihastha. And this sannyasi, he was a very great scholar. He can quote shlokas like anything. And this other man, he was a good manager. He used to manage festivals and preaching and opening temples and like that. So, but he was a grihastha. And while they were preaching and all that, then soon he found out he had a son who was a teenager at the time. And the son saw that the mother was having illicit sexual affairs with so many men. And when the son caught her red-handed, he said, I'm going to tell this to father. And she killed the son. The mother killed her own son and she killed herself. And such a tragedy happened, and this devotee, he came back to his house to find both of them dead, and he found the reason for that. And it's not only shame, it was grief, it was everything. And what he did, he committed suicide himself. So, Prabhupada said, that was foolish of him to do that, to commit suicide like that. Although every materialist would say, this is such a depressing thing. But for a spiritualist, a person advanced in Krishna consciousness should understand that things like this, the situations like these are great blessings of the Lord to enable us to come completely detached from this attachment. Because the attachment usually is very sweet, but when it turns bitter, that is actually a sign of blessings from Krishna to show the true nature of material attachment, the naked truth of the material world. So when Krishna makes or reveals to us the naked truth of the material world, that is his blessing. So that will enable us to give up such attachment. So there's a verse actually, Srimad Bhagavatam 4:13, I think 37. 39, 4:13:39. Here you see, in the purport it is said, it appears that King Anga did not get a very good wife in Sunitha because she was the daughter of death personified. Sometimes the Lord arranges an unfortunate wife for his devotee so that gradually, due to family circumstances, the devotee becomes detached from his wife and home and makes progress in devotional life. It appears that by the arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, King Anga, although a pious devotee, got an unfortunate wife like Sunitha and later on a bad child like Vena. But the result was that he got complete freedom from the entanglement of family life and left home to go back to Godhead. So, so Dimitri is saying like Narada lost his mother. So these kind of things happen by the arrangement of the Lord, and one can only understand it as the arrangement of the Lord and take it as a blessing if he is situated in Krishna consciousness. Because the same thing for a materialist, he will go drink and he will start to commit suicide and all this thing. But a spiritualist should understand. And when Maya shows such naked form, ugly form, then he should immediately go out of that and take sannyas and dedicate his life to serve Krishna. So these things are there. So one must understand these things, and it's only possible when one is in Krishna consciousness. So, and I think I'll show you another verse in this same chapter, a few verses later, 4:13:46. Kadapatyam varam manye sadapatyachucham padat nirvidyeta grihan martyo yat klesha nivaha grihah. And the king thought a bad son is better than a good son. Usually everybody wants a good son. No, he said bad son is better than a good son because a good son creates attachment for home, whereas a bad son does not. A bad son creates a hellish home from which an intelligent man naturally becomes very easily detached. In fact, he said this also, 4:13:43. Prayenabhyarchito devo ye praja grihamedhinah kadapatya bhritam dukkham yena vindanti durbharam. Durbharam. Bharam means already weight. Durbharam means unbearable. The king thought to himself, persons who have no son are certainly fortunate. They must have worshipped the Lord in their previous lives so that they would not have to suffer the unbearable unhappiness caused by a bad son. So you see, he had such a bad son, such a demon, and his son was Vena. But he was very, very pious, but his son was very, very impious. And that caused such strong detachment from family life that it became a huge blessing for him. He did not go into depression, no, because he was armed with Krishna conscious knowledge. And therefore, he took it and he contemplated like these verses here. And he took sannyas and went to the forest, nowhere to be seen. And he spent the rest of his life in Krishna consciousness. So that one has to be able to see. Otherwise, one goes into depression. If he cannot handle such situations, he will go into depression and even suicidal. And I think somebody shared with me a few months ago, there was this one man in Japan. He was, but the court has ordered to kill him, to hang him to death. Why? Because he killed about 9 people. But not that he was a cruel person, apparently. Why he killed? Because they asked him to kill him. Because they were suicidal, and he helped them by killing them. Because they could not take the step of killing themselves. On one side, they want to end their life, and on the other side, they did not have the guts or the courage to do so. And so they wanted him to finish them off. And he killed them. See what horrible state of mind this is. Mental health. Nowadays it is becoming a big issue. Mental health. They are going into depressions. Why? Because they can't handle the onslaughts of material nature. because they are not armed with Krishna conscious knowledge. Therefore, they do not know how to navigate situations in this life. Such downsides, materially when one is at a disadvantage, is a huge spiritual advantage. Huge. So, one should understand these things. Then one will be properly armed. So, his solution was to, kill you. So, seemingly that looked like helping them. But what kind of help is that? Helping them to, kill them. So, this is absolute rubbish. And he was hanged to death. He was only 30 years old. And he did not appeal. He did not appeal that, I did right, and he wanted to die also. So in the end, he also wanted to die, although nothing could have changed. But you see, that is a very depressing story. But what if that person was a devotee and encouraged them to chant and discuss with them nice philosophy of Krishna consciousness, and how much they would have been saved, their human life would have been successful. That thing which they got after millions of births, they gave it up just like that, threw it in the garbage by committing suicide. So, look at that. So, that's a huge loss. So, that's why Krishna consciousness is of the utmost importance to the entire human society. And this yoga, now sannyasa, everybody is scared of giving up materialistic life. But the thing is, when we start with Krishna consciousness, even though we are in material life, eventually, proportionately, that detachment from material life happens. So, Vairagya Vidya, Nija Bhakti Yoga, I think 6.254. Yeah. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhyalila 6.254. वैराग्य विद्या निज भक्ति योग शिक्षार्थमेक पुरुष पुराण श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य शरीरधारी कृपाम्बुधिर्यस्तमहं प्रपद्ये. Let me take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, who has descended in the form of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to teach us real knowledge, his devotional service, and detachment from whatever does not foster Krishna consciousness. He has descended because he is an ocean of transcendental mercy. Let me surrender unto his lotus feet. Written by Kavi Karnapur in his book Chaitanya Chandrodaya Natak, 6th chapter, 74 and 75 verses. You see, he has taught us Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga, detachment, knowledge, and actual service, devotional service. So these things are important. So Vairagya and Vidya leads to Nija Bhakti Yoga. Actually, from Nija Bhakti Yoga there will be Vairagya and Vidya. Bhakti Yoga causes Vairagya and Vidya also. And that is explained here in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.7. वासुदेवे भगवति भक्ति योगः प्रयोजितः जनयत्याशु वैराग्यं ज्ञानं च यद अहैतुकम्. By rendering devotional service unto the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. So, devotional service starts with hearing and chanting. So, once we start this, and of course engaging all our other parts of the body as well, and especially our mind and intelligence, then automatically as we hear and participate in Krishna conscious activities, we gain knowledge and also detachment from materialistic life. So automatically this happens. So it is said that just like a caterpillar moves from one leaf to the other and then gives up, once it has sufficient footing on the next leaf, then it will give up the previous leaf. So similarly, we cannot give up unless we have sufficient footing in the spiritual life. So we have to be sufficiently advanced in order to be able to give up our material attachments. So first thing is to develop attachment for Krishna. That's why it is said in the beginning, actually next verse itself, today's verse 6.2, 6.3 itself, you see, it is said, आरुरुक्षोर मुनेर योगम कर्म कारणमुच्यते योगारूढ़स्य तस्यैव शमः कारणमुच्यते. For one who is a neophyte in the Eightfold Yoga system, work is said to be the means. And for one who is already elevated in yoga, cessation of all material activities is said to be the means. So in the beginning, work is said to be the method. And in the advanced stage, stopping all material activities is said to be the method. Now what is the meaning? Because in the beginning, one is advised to add Krishna into his life. Whatever his life is, whatever mess it is a mess. Without Krishna, it's a mess. So whatever mess it is, add Krishna to your life first. Oh, you're first time coming to the temple? Alright, go, very good. Take this book. Yeah, come and eat Krishna Prasadam. Take this mala, start chanting. Add Krishna to your life. Chant 2 rounds, 3 rounds, starting. So this is, we're asking them to add Krishna into their life. Whatever their life is now, add Krishna. Now, when one is advanced, the instruction is, take out everything that is not Krishna. Every other thing that you had that is not connected with Krishna, take it out of your life. So, that is said here. So, that is how it should be. So, that's why in the beginning one is advised to add, and then later one is advised to subtract everything that is not Krishna. As one progresses, one comes to that part where his life is full of only Krishna and nothing else. That is perfection. So, I think I will stop there. If one is unable to give up the activities of his selfish nature, then jnana and yoga are of no avail. Yeah. So the other thing is, if one does sannyasa, but he does not connect himself with yoga or with Krishna in devotional service, that is a waste of time. It's a useless labor. Shrama eva hi kevalam notpadayad yadiratim Shrama eva hi kevalam dharmasvanushtitah pumsam vishvaksena kathasvaya notpadayed yadiratim 1.2.8 of Srimad Bhagavatam. So if the utpadayet ratim, that means if the attraction for Krishna's topics don't sprout in one's heart, then that's absolute waste of time. The occupational activities, means according to Varna and Ashrama, Brahmachari, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyas, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, according to these divisions, the occupational activities a man performs according to his own position are only so much useless labor if they do not provoke attraction for the message of the personality of Godhead. So this is important. So ultimately, Krishna consciousness is real sannyas and yoga. And sannyasa and yoga are synonymous if we understand the purpose behind them. And just imagine, just compare that with modern understanding of yoga. Renunciation is the farthest thing from their practice of yoga. Their whole practice of yoga is how to become slim and trim and so-called, what they say, sexy, and then attract the opposite sex. This is what they want to do with yoga. No, but here it is said yoga and sannyasa is the same. Means completely free from all these material attachments, especially sex life. So so I'll stop there. Any questions or comments? We have Dhiradas who's asking, after suicide, do we immediately get next body or do we have to spend our remaining destined time as a ghost? In fact, not only remaining destined time, sometimes it is much longer than the remaining destined time in the body. So it can be much longer. If one commits suicide, definitely he is going to be a ghost. He cannot get another body immediately. Dimitri Prabhu is asking, one man in India dresses iron underwear with a big lock. He probably thinks it helps him to detach from sex life. Iron underwear with a big lock. I think he must be having the key to that lock as well, right? So he will open whenever he wants it. That's funny. So that's not how one can control this sex life. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya देहिनः रसवर्जं रसोप्यस्य परं दृष्ट्वा निवर्तते. 2.59. We can't give up sex life by locking up the genitals. The embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, though the taste for sense objects remains. But seizing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness. So one has to have a higher taste of life. And I told the story of one so-called sannyasi in Malaysia. I mean, he's from India, but he came to Malaysia to deliver some lectures. He was 78 years old, it seems. So when I went to Malaysia and I was having this conversation with the priests of that Sri Krishna temple there, and they were talking to me, and they said recently there was because they asked me, are you married? Do you have wife and children? I said no, I'm brahmachari. I said, why don't you get married? Get married, no? They were saying. I said, what kind of advice are you giving me? Do you know actually that brahmachari is better than marrying, being a brahmachari, or staying detached from family life is better? Why are you saying like that? Recently we had a sannyas. They said like that. They were telling that recently we had a sannyasi, and he was giving lecture, and he was asking everybody to get married. I said, what kind of sannyasi is that? Why is he doing that? He said, they said, the priests, the two of them, they told me, no, this, he said that, when he was much younger, he did not marry. He wanted to become just like you are. He was very excited about, spiritual life and everything. But after a certain age, he felt that he should have actually married, he should have had a wife actually. So he was regretting. And therefore now he is 78, now he cannot do anything. No woman will also come for him, and he also cannot enjoy as much as he wants to. So he is actually regretting, and he is therefore telling everybody that first thing, get married. Don't think about the sannyas is all too much. This is you will regret later. Don't take sannyas. You get married. He was advising everybody and anybody, whoever he meets, he will Yaradeka Tarakaha Vivaha Upadesh. Instead of Krishna Upadesh, he was giving Vivaha Upadesh. Get married. So this is because no higher taste. That means he is not doing anything in Krishna consciousness. And that's why the mind is going to enjoyment of senses, lust. So, all right. Thank you very much. Dimitri Prabhu is laughing. Yeah, it was a hilarious exchange. I was laughing away when the priests were telling me the story. I was laughing like anything without control. So all right, I think we'll stop here then. Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hare Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.